when we were there, like Ali remembers. It was a vibe. I almost feel like, and I know this might sound sacrilegious, but I almost feel like the angels were there with me on that day. I do feel like there was something going on that day, that something happened.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to the realest podcast in the dunya, the Three Muslims podcast. Today we're joined with a very special guest. I think this is the episode we've all been waiting for a long time. We have with us Brother Mohammed Hijab. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Habibi, how are you doing today?
Not bad, alhamdulillah. Not bad at all. How are you guys doing?
Alhamdulillah. Tamam, Habibi. SubhanAllah. So, we don't have too long, so we're going to start this off with a bang. Inshallah, we're going to do a quick fire Q&A.
Yeah,
let's make it happen, man. Bismillah.
People in the background making some negative externalities, some noise pollution, some problems, some extraneous variables, some issues. It's the one and only Champ and his friend. But sorry if there's any noise in the background. There's nothing I can do about that.
Alhamdulillah. All right, let's get on with it. So, is money more important or fame?
Depends on what the objective is, really. I mean, if we've got to think about what the objective is, everything must be thought of in line with one's objectives. So, what are the objectives that you have in mind?
I meant that for a personal question for you.
For me personally,
yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, like maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, I've never ever made dua for money in my life. I don't think I've ever made dua for it. I've never asked Allah for money. That's might be come to as a surprise to some of you, but I've never actually done it. I think there was a few times when I was in some financial problems, and I asked Allah to help me with that financial issue, but I didn't ask Allah for money directly. But one dua I used to make probably about 6 years ago when I first started the da'wah was Allahumma anshur da'wati, which is that may Allah spread my da'wah. That was one dua I used to make and continue to make, actually, And so for me, it was a matter of popularity, but not necessarily in and of itself, because to be honest with you, in and of itself, it doesn't really provide much nourishment. It doesn't really give you anything. It doesn't improve one's quality of life. I don't think it does at all, to be honest. There's a famous discussion with Russell Brand and Jeremy Paxman, where Jeremy Paxman asks Russell Brand this very question, and then Russell Brand he turns around and he says, he gives a very nice analogy. He says, fame is like a meal which, when one eats it, it kind of is bland, or it's not nourishing, or it's not satiating, and so on and so forth. And so from that perspective, I think I would agree with that kind of thing. Fame in and of itself can to be honest with you, sometimes an inconvenience, because you don't know who's looking at you and who thinks what of you. And, sometimes you can be with your family, you can be here or there, and it can sometimes be an inconvenience. And so in and of itself, I don't think it's that valuable to me. It hasn't really increased my quality of life like that. It has opened up things in terms of opportunity, And I'm not speaking as a very famous person. If we're talking about very famous people, we've got the one and only right here, Ali Dawah, next to me. If you want to take a look at him, this is the famous one. This is the champ.
I'm the famous one.
MashaAllah.
Assalamu alaikum, bro.
Happy
Assalamu alaikum.
Look how good he's looking with that jacket that he got from Oxfam,
MashaAllah.
and that nice skin fade. This kind of thing.
MashaAllah.
Allah barak feek, bro. All right, next question. What was your most memorable or favorite debate that you've been in thus far?
Undoubtedly, the David Wood debate. There was something about that debate when we were there, like Ali remembers. It was a vibe. I almost feel like, and I know this might sound sacrilegious, but I almost feel like the angels were there with me on that day. I do feel like there was something going on that day, that something happened. People don't realize that actually with David Wood, I was introduced to his material when I was like 15 or 16 years old. Yeah, I remember watching it. And sometimes I watch a video, him and his friend. I'm not going to mention his name because he's not that well known. And I don't want to give him any popularity here. But I watched it when I was in year 10, which like when I was 15 or 14, 15. And I remember watching those videos and getting so angry, literally physically angry. And I vouched that one day I will be responding to him from that time. And I actually sent him an email, probably when I was in my early 20s. He didn't even respond to it. Maybe my teens or early 20s or something like that, asking to debate him. So that day was a culmination of emotions and anger that I had from my teenage years. And so for that, I think from that angle, it was very sincere because I actually wanted to prove him wrong, to show that why he was wrong and all these kinds of things. And from that perspective, I think Allah, he put the barakah in it. He put like the blessings in it. He sent down maybe the angels, Allahu Alam. But it was definitely something which is haunting him until this day. You can see he's making videos about me until now. I mean, I think just 2 days ago, he made a video about me. I mean, this is real desperation. And so, Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, I think I was very young at that time, 25 or something years old, when I done that debate. But it was just an uphill trajectory after that. And there's something about a debate with that many people, and there's something about the New York audience as well. And Philadelphia, people coming from Philadelphia and people coming from nearby areas, New Jersey and so on. That really was on it. It made the night. It was a good vibe. And so there's nothing that I think that has thus far compared with that at all.
By far, yeah. All right, next question. In a fight between you and a grizzly bear, who would win and why is it you?
If I had, I'd shoot him. The thing is, the grizzly bear, I did look at how to defeat a grizzly bear in a fight. A grizzly bear is very difficult. There are three kinds of bear. I think there's one of them where you can fight and beat. I can't remember which one it is. Is it the blue bear or there are three of them? The black bear, right? I think I could. I don't know, but I think I could do something with the black bear, whatever that bear that's almost my size. I think it has been defeated by humans in the past, and I wouldn't put it past myself to be able to give that bear the decisive blow. But if it was a grizzly bear, what I would do is I would lay on the floor like a log, cover my essential areas, that like just as it says on the videos. And if you're in America, you can't really have any chance with a grizzly bear. You have no chance with a grizzly bear. The grizzly bear is the one that's undefeated, undisputed. So you have to put yourself on the floor and cover your vital areas like this, and put your head down and play dead basically. But if it was the black bear you said, or I can't remember what it's called.
Black bear, yeah.
Yeah, that one you can fight, I think, but I would only do that as a last resort. And if I had head.
That's funny. As we go on with these questions, you're going to break a few more hearts with every question that goes by. So I hope you're ready for that. Next question is Mandi or Biryani?
Which one?
Mandi or Biryani?
What's Mandi? Which one is that one?
Mandi, bro. Come on.
Are you talking about the Arabic one?
Yeah. The Emirati one.
Okay, that's a good one. No, to be honest, as a whole, I prefer Asian food. It's my favorite food, like Asian cuisine. Biryani is not my favorite type of thing. Biryani is not my favorite type of Indian food, but I would go for biryani, yes.
Okay, next one is Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi Max, the one with cherry, is good because it's good tasting and it's 0 calories.
All right, who's a better cook, your wife or your mom?
My mom, no doubt about it. Undisputed, undefeated.
Oof. All right, top 3 places you visited.
Huh?
Top 3 places that you visited.
Mecca is number 1. Okay, Medina is number 2, and after that is my country, Egypt, and I would say my city, Alexandria.
Alhamdulillah. All right. Do you have, and I hope Ali Dawah hears this, do you have any exclusive update on the marriage documentary?
I do have that, but I'm not going to tell them because this is something that you're going to have to pay me money for. Because I don't need to ask for money, but I ask the people for it.
Allah Barak Feek. All right, next question. Are there any debates that you kind of regret doing now?
No, not at all.
Okay. Last question. Are there any projects that you're currently working on that you're very excited that's coming up?
Obviously, I recorded the thing with Hersey, Ayan McGann, her real name. and that's going to come out on the 1st of March. So I think that's going to be quite exciting because the way I mean, I don't know. I mean, the guys were here to see it, but the way I kind of laid the smack down on that woman was, I think, something which people would like to see.
Alhamdulillah. All right, Rami, Anghel, any questions from you guys?
Anghel, bro, you have anything?
Rami, go ahead first. Go ahead.
Bismillah. So when it came to the Jordan Peterson discussion, I think
So
there's a
say
big
that again.
when it comes to the Jordan Peterson discussion, right?
Yeah.
How well received do you think it was by him and by the audience?
It was one of the most well-received things. I probably think it was the most well-received things I've done.
Wow.
Especially with non-Muslims. I think the amount of with him, I mean, as you saw in that particular thing, it was well received with him, and I've built a relationship with him. I hope, because the thing is with Peterson, I think he appreciates disagreeableness. I mean, he says it himself. People that make it in life are those who disagree, and people that are yes men around him. I don't think he respects that too much. So the fact that I wasn't afraid in my public discourses to show my disagreement with him, but at the same time try and show him respect and not be antagonistic to him or provocative to him or disrespectful to his placement, that was a very, very hard thing to do, because it's easier to kind of let your punches go, if you like. You're doing one thing, you don't have to moderate yourself, you don't have to mitigate your own responses. But with Peterson, it was difficult because I had to make sure that I played the fight, I held the stick by the middle. And so I felt like in many ways, the fact that I was restraining myself from being overly brash or all of the other kind of, I would say, vices that I have typically in my personality structure, I was trying to restrain them. I think from that angle, it was good because it allowed me to work on my weaknesses more than accentuate my strengths. And so anything that allows you to work on your weaknesses rather than accentuate your strengths, I think is a golden opportunity and one that will build your character. So from that angle, I think it was good for me, and hopefully it was good for him as well. And it's been viewed by almost 2 million people now. For the time, it's pretty good, and it's one of the most, I think, if not the most commented on video on his channel, in his entire channel. So there's a lot of engagement. I think it was positive, and the aim of the game really is to make the environment a more tolerable one for the Muslim community in the West, and to build bridges of communication and understanding. And I think that those objectives were met.
Yeah, 100%, especially from what I've seen as well. I think, alhamdulillah, it was very well received. So when it comes to Jordan Peterson, how is he off the camera compared to on the camera? Is there any difference?
I think he's pretty authentic guy, to be honest with you. I do actually think he's an authentic guy. I don't know. I haven't really spoken to him too much off the camera to be able to make an informed judgment about him. Especially from our paradigm, we have to kind of like be with the person a lot, travel with them, do business with them, that kind of thing, before we can actually make a judgment on the character. But we can give him the benefit of the doubt. And I think that really Islam is starting to make sense for him. I hope it's going to start making more sense for him as the time goes on, because it's everything that he wants from an ideology or from an idea or from a way of life. It's everything that he's been speaking about, all the diagnoses that he's had of gender relations in the West. Is a lot of it, I'm not going to say all of it, but much of it is in line with the Islamic discourse. So I think that he can, and obviously his anti-nihilist discourses and so on and so forth, a lot of it is commensurate with Islam. So I hope that he looks into that properly and he gives it a chance. And I think that he is courageous enough. I do believe he's courageous enough, if he does believe in Islam, to announce that and to make that public. Because to be honest with you, like, for him to have me on his podcast, knowing what kind of a personality I am, and he did know what kind of things I did in the past and whatever, I think is a show of bravery. I think it's a show of courage. And I think it will be equally a show of courage, if not more so, if he was to convert to Islam. It would probably be one of the biggest conversions of the 21st century. And so if we can in any way be a facility of that, or facilitate that, then that would be amazing.
Yeah, 100%. I think a big reason why a lot of like the Muslim audience that he has likes him so much is because of the agreement between what he preaches a lot and our Islamic values, alhamdulillah. So inshallah, may Allah grant the Muslims many more conversations with him and guidance to Islam. Allahumma ameen. So with that being said, what are your goals in terms of dawah for the next 5 years?
Well, what I want to do is I want to complete my PhD. I want to also so I divide my goals into different types in life and also in Dawah. So I divide them from my own perspective, individual goals and then family goals and then community goals. And I would say all three are inextricably linked to one another. And within my kind of own development, I have the tripartite classification, mind, body, and the spirit. So what you're describing here goes into the mind, if you like, and goes into the community aspect of my objective. So there's two types of objectives we're talking about here. And as I say, they're inextricably linked. So obviously, my Dawah goals and my kind of development or personal development goals are inextricably linked. So one of the things I want to do is I want to complete my academic work on the contingency argument for God's existence. I've already produced a few booklets on that. I want to produce more work on that because, as Bruce Lee said, a man that he practices 1,000 kicks is not as feared as a man. He wouldn't fear him as much as a man who practices one kick 10,000 times. Because if a good argument is like a sharp knife. If you have, all you need is a few good arguments that you are really, really good at in order to really create damage and to change a social understanding. And I'm a believer of that. And you see this in martial arts. You see people having 2 or 3 moves, and they go through an entire career, with those moves. Obviously you have to set them up, you have to all those things, but really you can be a specialist on a move and that can produce your entire career. So I believe in the same thing when it comes to Dawah. 2 or 3 arguments, 2 or 3 areas of specialism, really focus on them. So the contingency argument being one of them. And a few other things which I'm not going to disclose straight away because I don't want people to be working with me in tandem, trying to catch up with me on those issues. I'm a big believer of, work in silence and let your actions do the talking. But after those kind of 5 years, that's the academic side, as well as like Islamic sciences, which I'm continuing to study. I believe in a 5-to-1 ratio, meaning that for every 5 hours that I do, 1 hour I do of Dawah, I have to have at least 5 times the amount of input, which means like people teaching me going through work. I believe in that kind of ratio because otherwise, what advantage do I have over the lay people? What really do I have to offer? So I believe in the 5-to-1 ratio. And that means to say that the Islamic sciences is something I also wish to strengthen for the next 5 years. As a general, what is referred to as ta'sil ilmi. I want to really develop all of my funun or the Islamic sciences really develop each one of them properly, so that when I'm 35 years old, I could be really solid from that angle as well. And also I want to develop so that's it in terms of my own personal development. In terms of the Dawah, we're thinking collectively really to obviously continue the work that we're doing in the Sapiens Institute, which is very important. If you don't know already, we've got an institute called the Sapiens Institute, in which we do like work. We've got like a syllabus now, which we're hoping to develop into a 3-year syllabus, almost degree style. We've already gone through about 8 months of something called the Londoniyah, which has been made into a poem. So that we want to develop people, bro. It's because doing debates and these kind of things are important, but developing people is more important. And I came to this conclusion more acutely, I think, when I had the pulmonary embolism. I had a pulmonary embolism, like blood clots in the lung. And, the doctors were telling me that you have a chance of mortality, and they were being very open about that and honest. And at that point, I thought, well, I need to be able to leave something behind, more than just debates and booklets here and there and, some stuff on the internet. In other words, I need to leave people behind that are developed themselves and that they can carry on the torch. So a lot of what we're doing is we're doing like personal development with very small groups. We're spending a lot of our time doing that, and we want to continue doing that, such that in 2-3 years' time, we have people who have their own areas of specialism and who can contribute to the Dawah. And finally, we want to get into like more the industry, the video industry, like produce productions and movies and stuff like that, short movies. And we are having discussions and playing around with this idea. but I think it requires a lot more creative input. And we're trying to create, more and more people. And obviously, I think the first thing that we're going to have is the marriage documentary. So we'll see what that's going to do as well, because that's going to be the first of many. I have to say that for Ali Dawah.
Yeah. MashaAllah.
That and many other stuff as well, many other things.
Inshallah, ya Rab. SubhanAllah, this is something that I think really it does lack in the Muslim community, the idea of producing leaders, because we already have a lot of people that learn a watered down version of the deen, unfortunately. So to now produce people that actually understand the deen and how it ought to be understood in the sense that it is to be taught, it is to be understood as the way of life, not just a way of life. And to produce those leaders that can produce more leaders from Allah is, I think, really, really essential. So may Allah put barakah and allow that to flourish. Allahumma ameen.
Ameen.
The last question I have before I pass it on to one of the brothers. My question is in regards to not so much your specific academic career and the PhD you're pursuing, but more generally, what do you think the benefit is in pursuing these credentials? Do you think that the knowledge is what's essential? Do you think having the credentials is really important to establish that kind of authority?
I think a bit of both, honestly, when I first got in contact with Jordan Peterson, I did so with the University of Oxford email. I think that made a difference, if I were to get in contact with him with a Gmail, I think it would make it and the fact that he knew that I was credentialed in all those aspects, it does make a difference. It puts you in a position of leverage against people, especially like non-Muslim people that are attacking Islam. There's undoubtedly that, but also there is the knowledge aspect as well. Do you know what I mean? So when I'm learning, or especially Islamic knowledge, I feel like if you have deadlines in place, and you have to do like essays or exams and stuff, you will invariably do more work than otherwise. If you are a casual reader and you're not really self-motivated, then enrolling yourself into courses and structures is one of the best ways to enthuse yourself and to maintain a level of consistency, maintain consistency over a span of time. And so from that angle, I think if you choose a good course that is actually got a good output potential, then being enrolled in courses, I don't think it's never a waste of money to invest in education. I don't believe in that. I believe that if you have money, invest it in education. That's the best thing you can invest it in. There's nothing better than you can invest it in than education. As Shafi'i himself, he said that he put half of his wealth into the study of the Arabic language. Half of his wealth. Now we don't imagine that how much money he must have had, and he put into. And he said, if I would have put the entire sum into the Arabic language, because he saw the value of knowledge. And so, two things: it does give you leverage in an environment where the pen has become the substitute for the sword, and number two, it does allow you to be able to be more productive in such an environment, and also, and also meet deadlines and leverage your opponents.
So to write off that last question, bro, there's a lot of people who would look at you as like an intellectual, academic type person, yeah? So how would someone who's not an intellectual, who's not an academic, I guess, acquire this knowledge besides the consistency aspect?
Look, we go back to the first stage. What you do should always be in line with the objective you choose for yourself. So for me, what I'm doing is I'm a polemic. They call it also an apologist, someone who justifies a controversial. That's what the word apologist means. Someone who justifies a controversial idea. In this case, Islam being the controversial idea. Those things require what I've just mentioned, and there's almost no substitute for them. If you want to do them at the highest level, I think that's what they require. But if that's not what you want to be, and you want to be something else, then you have to think about, all right, so what the first question that you have to ask yourself is, what is it that you actually want to contribute? And not only what is it that you want to contribute, what is it that is what is it that you can most effectively contribute? And then, as Nietzsche said, if you have a why, then almost any how is possible. When you have that why and you clearly define it, then you work backwards from it. Like for me, if I were to show you, or if I could show you something, yeah, I carry this kind of like bag, yeah. Look, this is a bag I carry everywhere. You see it? Yeah.
Anyway,
I have this bag. So anyway, I have these little. I still like writing things in it. So Can you see this little diary notepad? I got this from a thing called Paper Chase. What I do in my personal life, I've been doing it since the age of 17, and now I'm 30. So I've been doing this for 13 years, and I like it. Which is basically, look, bro, like, okay, so I've got categories. I'm not sure if you can see what I'm doing there. Can you see it? Can you see the tallies in that, yeah?
Yeah.
So what I've got is I've got rows and columns. And I think to myself on a weekly basis, what are the things? I got 168 hours in a week, yeah? So I got 168 hours in a week. And I think to myself on a weekly basis, what do I need to do? So I've got columns. I'm not going to read all of them to you, but there's a lot of columns, yeah? But I think that they're the most important things that, not just for me, because that's a very selfish way of thinking, but for me and my family, which I feel like I need to be outputting or inputting. Okay, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's doing some studies with my kids, or taking them swimming, or whatever I do with the kids, or myself, or what studies I invest in, I track it down and I literally see my productivity levels on a week-to-week basis. I've been doing this for 13 years, so I see now what works, what doesn't work. In exam periods or whatever it is, I've been seeing how I can manage my emotions, manage my productivity levels. You start getting to know yourself more when you start writing things down. That's something I've seen. But if you leave yourself to just do whatever you need to do, and you've got a very loose, the looser your program, the looser your results. That's the reality of the situation. If you leave yourself and you don't put things down, you don't write things down, you don't bar chart things. I used to put things in bar charts and these kind of things where you see it like this is your productivity level. The more you write, the more you know about yourself, yeah, the more you can get things right. So in 5 years, you'll be very shocked and surprised the extent to which you can completely transform your skill set in any given field in 3 to 5 years. You can literally go from novice to pro in 5 years in almost any given skill set, but you need to be able to work backwards. I've been doing that for the last 13 to 15 years. So I feel like, if one invests their time in really detailing in their lives what they want to do, then that's the first thing. So you need to ask yourself, what do you actually want to achieve? And you got to ask yourself, go back to the tripartite classification, the mind, the body, and the spirit. Okay, so what do you want to achieve from the mind perspective, the spirit perspective, and the body perspective? What do you want to achieve for yourself? What do you want to achieve for your family members? What do you want to achieve from your community or for your community? Once you've understood all of that, then you can work in line with that. That's why I think it has to be done. But also, I would add one more thing to this. The Quran says something really powerful. It says, "Qul kullun ya'mal ala shakilatihi." Everyone should work on their form. Okay, like everyone has something that they have been given. وَلَا تَتَمَنَّوْا مَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بِهِ بَعْضُكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. Another verse in Surah An-Nisa. Do not wish what Allah has given some of you that He hasn't given others. And in fact, this is a gender discussion because لِلرِّجَالِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا اكْتَسَبُوا وَلِلنِّسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا اكْتَسَبْنَ. For men is a portion of what they have earned, and for women is a portion of what they have earned. وَاسْأَلُوا اللَّهَ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. And ask Allah from His favors. But the point is that you need to see not just what you're good at, not just what you want to do, but what you're actually good at as well. Like, for example, all of you guys, I'm moving my head. All of you guys can speak the English language. Now, you can speak the English language with not just any accent, but you can speak the English language with an American accent. Now, you might think that's a trivial thing, but let me tell you something, right? Having the American accent English-speaking language puts you in the 95th percentile in the world's population of being able to speak English. Not just English language, but you can speak it in a accent that many people would love to have. Now, that you might think that's something negligible or trivial, but it's not actually trivial because it allows you to do things which maybe 95% of other people would not be able to do. For example, having this channel. So you need to be able to make a proper critical self-assessment on your actual strengths, and you need to start thinking about things which you maybe take for granted. And once you understand what your strengths are, then it's better and easier to build on them. And I feel like if we build on our strengths and work on our weaknesses, but really do accentuate our strengths, that can put us on the next level, and that puts us in a better position to be able to leave like a proper fingerprint, on world's history. But that's basically how I put it. You need to think about, therefore, you need to think about what you want to contribute to the world. And then you need to work backwards, and you need to work backwards on a day-to-day basis. Umar ibn al-Khattab, he said, "Hasibu anfusakum qabla an tuhasabu." Hold yourself to account before you are held to account. This is a very powerful thing. If you hold yourself to account by how much you spend, how much you eat, I've started doing this thing on MyFitnessPal. I'm not sure if you guys know. I'm sure you guys know this app. I was shocked to know how many calories I consume on a daily basis. About 4,000. So I realized, okay, and it's, it's funny enough. It told me if you want to lose weight, you can eat 3,500 calories, 1/2 kilo a week, which is like what, I don't know, like a pound or something a week, more than a pound. Anyway, just know what's coming into your body, what's coming into your soul, what you are consuming and what you are outputting, and hold yourself to account on that basis.
I think there's another thing too. It's the perseverance aspect too. Like, we're more willing to stick through with things that we set out with an intention.
It's impossible to have empathy for others if you're not patient. So may Allah bless you for that.
First off, I'm gonna agree with the fact that the whole thing you said about friends, where it's like if they're affecting you more than you're affecting them, then you should probably get some new friends.
You want to be investing in stocks, shares, bonds. You want to be investing in crypto, because there's this thing called inflation, which means every year that passes by, the value of $1 goes lower and lower and lower. And the reason being is because they're printing more money, right? That's why money is haram. At least the paper money is haram.
Provided that you're actually there and you're being a good father and the mother's being a good mother, best conditions.
And behind the mic, Hamza, Andreas, Zortsis, we will go in with our final three with brother Anghel, inshallah.
Inshallah, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
It's not just a responsibility on you, it's responsibility on all the children, especially your father.
In our private area is very elastic, and yeah, if you go too fast, the skin will literally crease up into like the edge of like the little clipper things, and you will literally clip your skin. You don't want to be on YouTube or the internet or anything that amount of time, but it's the fact is that's what we're doing. That's what's up, man. It reminds me a lot of you know who Jocko Willink is?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Jocko Willink.
Yeah. He's got a podcast.
Yeah. So he had said something along the lines of like discipline equals freedom. And what you just said, it just kind of highlighted that, where you're writing everything down and you're holding yourself accountable and seeing the progress that's being made, therefore allowing you to reverse engineer everything and get the results that you're looking for.
Yeah, it's like the old quote says, it says that you've got two pains, either the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And most people, unfortunately, they opt for the second unknowingly, unwittingly, or otherwise, unpreferredly. And what I'm saying is that this is something that we can actually make a choice for today. And I feel like if you don't have a solid plan, if you fail to plan to fail, basically. If you fail to plan to fail, you will be in a position where you will not achieve what you want to achieve. You will have a crisis maybe in your mid-30s or 40s. You will not feel as if you've done what you could do. The Islam gives such, it has such an emphasis on time. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. That by time, that surely, human being is in a state of loss. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, except for those who do good works and believe and do good works. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, and they exhort one another the truth and they exhort one another to patience. Hassan al-Basri, who's one of the tabi'in, he said that we are all, it's very interesting what he said. He said that we are all days, and every day we lose a part of ourselves. We are basically all days, and every day we lose a part of ourselves. We're like walking snowmen. We're melting away. So we only have a very limited time to get done what we need to get done. And so if once one had that kind of like, quite frankly, that impetus, that kind of urgency narrative, I feel like that's the beginning of success. That is the very beginning of success.
MashaAllah. So with that being said, man, what does a day look like for you?
What does a day look like for me?
Yeah. I mean, you
Yeah,
got
so
that little
that's
notebook, you writing everything down.
yeah. So it depends on the day, but largely speaking, there are things that I do on a day-to-day basis which are the same. Uh, some of them I can't mention. No, I'm only joking. So basically, the things that I do that I try and do. I try and because I had the pulmonary embolism. Okay, I couldn't do martial arts and still basically cannot do any heavy martial arts for some time. Right. So that's one thing that I'm gonna come inshallah back into. You know, I think next week or the week after, because I'm on blood thinners, so I need to get off those blood thinners to get. But basically, I used to do a lot of martial arts. But the point is, um, on a day-to-day basis, these are the things that I have to do. Number one, I have to do Quran. I have to do Azkar Sabah and Masa. So before, I think at my height, I had a daily plan of doing 1.5 hours of Quran, either Hifz or Muraja'at, which is basically going on. And basically, this is the most important thing. If you don't have Quran in your day-to-day, I think, life, then quite frankly, you're not following the Sunnah. You cannot really be a da'iyah, because what are you going to give the people? You know, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَهُ. The best of you are those who learn the Quran and teach it. The Quran itself states that وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. We have made the Quran easy for remembrance, so who's going to come and remember it? Allah has made it easy. You know, it's one of the things which Allah has actually made so easy for the people is Quran, to memorize it, the Quran, to understand it. To Ibn Jazari said, "Al-akhdhu bit-tajweed hatmun lazimun man lam yujawwid al-Qur'ani athimu بأنه به إلينا وصل وهكذا به إلينا أنزل," or something like that. That basically doing it with tajweed. And he says that some people that don't do Quran with tajweed is a sinner. Ibn Jazari, one of the greatest scholars. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he said on this matter, he says, "Al-mahiru bil-Quran ma'a-safarati al-kiram al-barara والذي يتتعتع فيه وهو عليه شاق فله أجران." That the one who is proficient with the Quran is with the high and lofty angels, and the one who finds it difficult, listen to this one, the one who finds it difficult and he is yani, to pronounce the words and so on, he gets 2 rewards. That person gets 2 rewards. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said in the hadith, he said, لا أقول ألف لا ميم حرف. He says, I don't say ألف لا ميم is 1 harf. ولكن ألف حرف ولام حرف وميم حرف وللحسنة 10 أمثالها. The alif is a harf, 1 letter, and lam is a harf, 1 letter, and mim is a harf, 1 letter, and for each letter is 10 rewards. Now we know there's 77,000 words in the Quran, and of them probably the average amount of letters is 5 to 7. Let's say 7. So 77,000 times 7 times 7. Let's just say 7 times 7, which is 49. So that's what 4,900,000, something like that. Rewards, like 5 million rewards from reading the Quran 1 time. I seldomly can see or think of a thing that you can do on your day-to-day basis, which can be more rewardable, which can be more psychologically nourishing, which can be more healing, because the Quran is shifa, than reading the Quran. The days that I don't read the Quran, I feel down. I feel like as if something bad has happened to me. Something's sad. I feel like I've wasted my time. Sometimes I read other books, and those other books I feel sometimes sad, because I'm thinking, why am I reading this kalam al-bashar, the human beings' words, then rather than the kalam of the human beings? I've been to 4 universities in my life, and as some people think, oh, you've learned so much from the university. Wallahi, sometimes, because I memorize about 95% of the Quran in my car. People don't know this. In my car, driving to places, because I couldn't do everything at one time. So I have sometimes learned more driving to universities than inside the university itself. Because when I'm driving to the university, I'm reading the Quran. But when I'm going in there, I'm listening to a white man speak about liberalism, whatever it is. And whatever he has to say is nothing better than what I have read when I was coming on the way. So as I say, reading the Quran, if you don't put the Quran as a centerpiece of your life, then there's no tamyiz, there's no difference between you and everybody else that is basically like in society. You have nothing to offer. It is the illumination. It is the centerpiece of the Islamic faith. So Quran. The second thing is Azkar Sabah al Masa, as I've mentioned, which is you can listen to it now. You don't even, I've got it on my channel as well, the morning and evening supplications, and I've translated it. So if this is something which the Prophet ﷺ used to do all the time, and some of those supplications are worth so much reward that it's beggars belief that people actually forego this on a day-to-day basis. It beggars belief, really, to be honest with you. So that's the second thing. The third thing is I try to do lifting weights about 3 to 4 times a week. Let's say 3 times a week, a 3-day split. I try to do that. Obviously, I've got my ilm that I do. So on a certain selected days, I study Islam. And I've got about 4 or 5 very close teachers, which I study with them. I study Bukhari on certain days. And to be honest with you, Bukhari, we're going through a sharh called Sharh al-Qastalani, which will take about 7 years to complete. We've done about 10% of it. We go through other books. We've got other teachers. That takes up a lot of my time. We go through fiqh Hanbali, and that takes up a lot of my time. Going through other mawad, other things. This is like, I feel a great sense of achievement and happiness, contentment when I'm going through these particular Islamic fields, because it is the shara, it is the holy muqaddas knowledge. It's not just any knowledge. I've studied a lot of other things, and to be honest with you, it's like nonsense. Sorry to say, most of it I study and I'm not interested in it. Really, what I'm interested in is the Quran. Really, what I'm interested in is what the Prophet ﷺ said. If I just go through 3 hadiths that I've never heard before, it makes my day, because there's something. Is imagine you're being communicated with by the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the Messenger of Allah, and there's new information that you haven't heard him say, that you hear him say. Going through the hadith, very important. And so every day I do with my kids, I do about 20 to 30 minutes of Arabic as well, Arabic lesson. And they're starting to, because I also try and give back to my kids and my family and stuff like that. And I've also got do lessons with other people in my family, from time to time. But I'm trying to focus on the children a little bit more, and take them swimming once a week. They're starting to do BJJ now. They've been doing it for a long time. Play fight, rough and tumble play or whatever. I do a lot of that with them. So there's a family time. I do a lot of family time stuff. Obviously we've got filming. We come and we've got filming about 3 times a week. I've got teaching, which we do about 2 to 3 times a week. So that's basically it. I can try and break it down. And when I was doing martial arts, I would do that. I try and do that 4 times, maybe 5 times a week, depending on the week. So that's basically really it. And I try and break it down and change it up. But then obviously the schedule starts building up, and I do what I need to do. But the staple things that I do on a day-to-day basis, which wherever I may be in the world, I will do, is the Quran. It is the Azkar. It is the muhasabat al-nafs, or the accountability, self-accountability. It is something to do with the body, some exercise, something like that, and so on.
MashaAllah. It's proper, bro. I definitely have more questions, but I want to open the floor up to the other 2 brothers here, just in case they have anything else they want to add.
Alhamdulillah. There's one thing on my mind right now. What are your advice to fathers?
Well, to be honest with you, it's easier for a man to be distracted from his children. I think sometimes we just have these tendencies. It's difficult. So what I do, as someone who has a proclivity to distraction, is I put things, I systematize things, I schedule things, I try and make things into a routine. So my thing is, with your children, first of all, you can spend years and years and years of having children and then not giving them their rights. So the way out of that is to have a routine with the children, a daily routine, a weekly routine. My routine with the children, as I mentioned, I got the Arabic lessons I do with them. I've got the kind of rough and tumble play. I take them swimming once a week. I take them out. Sometimes I take them out, but that's less often. You got to do things like that. You got to put that in, because if you don't, then you won't have that influence on your child. They will not be attached to you. You will. And by the way, it's very important to note that you spending time with your kids is not a favor to them. It's a favor to yourself, because in fact, what it does is it activates endorphins in your body, and it does things for you from a mental health perspective, which elevates your state. So if you try and eliminate that part of your life, you're only doing that to your own discredit and disfavor. So my point is, sometimes we can be selfish as fathers, but if you are of that type, you have to systematize things, you have to schedule things, you have to make things routine, and that is in your favor, because at the end of the day, it's one of the greatest adornments of the dunya. Al-mal wal-banun, zinatul hayat ad-dunya, as the Quran states, that children and wealth are the adornment of this life. If you can't even make use of that, then the problem is with you. You're only harming yourself.
Alhamdulillah. My last question is, what are some things that you see men lack today?
I feel like, well, in the Muslim community, in the West, we have to be more specific.
Muslim men.
In the West, where? In what country? In what province?
In the West. Muslim men in the West.
Right. So I think that, obviously there are issues to do with Westernization. There's issues to do with the ideological subversion that's happened and takeover and that kind of thing, especially in America. Unfortunately, I've been to Canada, as you know, many times. I think I've seen you, Rami, in person, haven't I?
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. So I've been to Canada many times. We've been to America many times. And I differentiate. There's parts of America, like Philadelphia, like New York, where people, especially the black community, because a lot of them are already used to being against the dominant community, being mavericks in that sense, in regards to civil rights and so on, that don't really have a problem with the rules of Islam. But unfortunately, especially within, subcontinental and Arab Muslims, a lot of them, there's a tendency to try and bow the knee to the dominant culture. And I think that is one of the biggest problems. As a result of it, we're seeing more egalitarian discourse. We're seeing more divorce. Statistically, American Muslims are almost on par in divorce rates with the dominant population. And the reason why that is because they are unable to have stable families, because they no longer believe in hierarchies. They no longer believe that a man should be the man of the house and they should have the final say on a managerial capacity. As a result of that, what we're seeing is the disintegration of family, destabilizing of such families, and we're seeing divorce, and we are just becoming part of the fabric. It actually angers me to see that we are letting this kind of narrative take place. And because what it is, I feel like, especially in Western discourses, you have like the right wing are very much anti-Muslim in sentiment. Many of them, not all of them, but many of them are anti-Muslim in sentiment. But the left wing can be very much anti-Islam. But the way in which they will try and influence Muslims is through micro-liberalism, micro-feminism. This kind of an approach where it's a so-called tolerant approach, which is actually a very subversive approach. But unfortunately, the naive amongst us and the weakest amongst us will fall prey to this kind of thing. Men will not stand their ground, and you'll have entire communities of people bowing the knee to the dominant culture in the name of maslaha, in the name of a masdar of talaq, masdar of sharia, which is called maslaha, which they've taken to a completely unusual level, and they've made the religion into something almost completely distinct, a diluted religion, a different religion. And so I think this is one of the biggest problems, because they have allowed the Western narratives, Enlightenment narratives, to define gender roles, especially, but not limited to the feminist, second wave feministic discourse. Men have now, they're rendered impotent in the family environment to be able to put their foot down, and they can't even do the basics in telling their daughters, this is wrong to wear this, or don't flirt with this guy, don't have these extramarital relationships. So what we're seeing is the emasculation of men wholesale in the Muslim community. This is less so the case, I think, in Britain, but because British Muslims are working class, this is a correlative thing. It's not necessarily causative, but many of the Muslim communities in the West, which opt to this kind of narrative, are middle-class Muslims. And the reason why middle class, meaning, I think you guys call it something else, upper class or something in America, but middle class are the higher echelons, people of higher socioeconomic order, because it's in their interest to stay with the egalitarian line, not the complementarian traditionalist line, because if they go against the egalitarian line, it will have severe consequences in their work environment, and they will lose money. So a lot of people are just, because they know if they speak in a manner which goes against the man or the establishment or the dominant ideology, that they may be demoted or otherwise fired or otherwise not being given the opportunities that others have. They tend towards a version of, if I want to call it that, diluted amalgam synthetic religion. Really, that's what it is, which is a new religion that they've concocted, which is Islamo-liberalism of the American kind. And so because of that, I think men have become, they accept things which in the history of Islamic civilization would never be acceptable at all. And so the only way, unfortunately, is that this can really be, there's two ways. Either theoretically, the people will through da'wah, accept the call back to Islam and to come back to the Kitab and the Sunnah, or that it has to be experiential. Because when all else fails, life it teaches the best lessons.
SubhanAllah. Well, I wish this could go on for a lot longer, but unfortunately, I think we're out of time here. So that being said, Jazakallah khair, Brother Mohammed Hijab. May Allah bless you immensely and barak on all the work that you do. Allahumma ameen. It was a pleasure having you on. I can say that, very firmly about myself and probably about the other two brothers as well. So may Allah put barak on your work and bless you immensely. Allahumma ameen.
Thanks so much for having me, and obviously, we're brothers in the religion and helping each other out. And if there's anything you need from me, let me know, inshallah.
Inshallah, Habibi. And likewise, Jazakallah khair. And with that being said, Allahumma atina fid dunya hasana wa fil akhirati hasana wa qina adhab an-nar. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum.
I think there's another thing too. It's the perseverance aspect too. Like, we're more willing to stick through with things that we set out with an intention.
It's impossible to have empathy for others if you're not patient. So may Allah bless you for that.
First off, I'm gonna agree with the fact that the whole thing you said about friends, where it's like if they're affecting you more than you're affecting them, then you should probably get some new friends.
You want to be investing in stocks, shares, bonds. You want to be investing in crypto because there's this thing called inflation, which means every year that passes by, the value of a dollar goes lower and lower and lower. And the reason being is because they're printing more money, right? That's why money is haram. At least the paper money is haram.
Provided that you're actually there and you're being a good father and the mother's being a good mother, best conditions.
And behind the mic, Hamza, Andreas, Zortsis, we will go in with our final three with Brother Anghel, inshallah.
Inshallah, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
It's not just a responsibility on you, it's responsibility on all the children, especially your father.
In our private area is very elastic, and yeah, if you go too fast, the skin will literally crease up into like the edge of like the little clipper things, and you will literally clip your skin. You don't want to be on YouTube or the internet or anything that amount of time, but it's the fact is that's what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.